countdown has begun.
To the second annual Paranormal Restore. It was so successful the first time they knew they had to do it again. Hosted by Bruce Barraclough Jr. and St. Albans Sanatorium.
With special guest speakers, Eric Knapp, Pat Bizard O'Keefe, the Connor Sisters, Lyle and Tana Lotz from Twisted, and Chris Belazone, just to mention a few of the special guests.
This event is going to be held on May 21st, 2016, for the price of $50 per ticket, with the proceeds going back to restore St. Albans Sanatorium. Not only do you get lectures, but you also get investigations. Leave your mark on St. Albans just as it leaves its mark on numerous people that come through its doors.
Order your tickets online at www.stalbans-virginia.com.
All right, guys, I'm waiting for Mr. Rodney Shortridge to appear in studio. He's going to have a special guest tonight, Sheriff Brian Hieatt. I hope I said that right. I've got that accent going on, so we're doing pretty good. There you are. There's Rodney. So I'm going to go ahead and play his intro, and you guys have a great night. And, Rodney, I got your intro, baby.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, babe. Welcome to Within the Chaos with your host, Rodney Shortridge, and co-host, Robin Dalton.
We had some technical difficulty, but I think we got by it. I want to thank Holly and Tara for covering my technical problems for tonight. I don't know what was going on, but I hope I got it straightened out. So I want to thank them so much, and the Vibe Radio Network. You can listen in by calling to 516-387-1922, or you can go to the Vibe Radio Network website at blogtalkradio.com/Vibe Radio Network. From deep within the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for listening to Within the Chaos. Of course, I think you already know my name is Rodney Shortridge because of the technical problems. I'll be your host tonight, along with my blue-eyed country gal co-host, Robin Dalton.
Hey, y'all.
Tonight, our special guest is a good friend of mine and an honorary member of my team, Black Diamond Paranormal Society. And he's also the Tazewell County's finest sheriff, Brian Hieatt. And I want to mention our hearts and thoughts go out to one of our own Vibe family member, Amanda. We're all here for you, girl. Stay strong. So, Robin, how was your week?
Oh, Lord. Actually, this week has been very interesting. The kids have all managed to have different kind of sicknesses through the week. Thank God they're not contagious. But I also started my workout regimen. And then, you know, being me, I'm sitting here right before the show eating cheesecake. So I don't know how effective today's workout was.
Well, I'm sure you're building that upper body strength as you dig into that cheesecake with that fork, and you lift that cheesecake up to your mouth and you chew. You build an arm strength and muscles in your mouth.
That's right. But I tell you, it was good.
Ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of cheesecake. Hell yeah.
I was so excited because I had such a good workout this evening. I went and played basketball with family and did some workout, and then had a really good walk, and then come home, showered, and ate cheesecake. I'm not feeling so good about myself.
Well, you felt so good about yourself, you rewarded yourself, and ain't nothing wrong with that.
I reckon I have no self. Oh, but I guess I do have self-discipline. Do you know that I have not had Dr. Pepper but one time in the past few days?
Oh, my God, testify.
I mean, that was like my crack, people.
Well, I tell you what, I was trying to mow Mom's yard, but unfortunately something happened to my mower, and it didn't want to pull my big butt up the hill. So I had to call Mr. Tommy Gross and say, hey, I need you to come by, check out my John Deere. I know I ain't gained that much weight. She can't pull me up the hill. Now, see, you talk about making yourself feel bad. Try to be on a tractor and it decides it don't want to pull you up the hill. That works on the ego real bad.
Oh, now, come on. That's a big-ass hill up there at your mom.
It is, but, I started going, I knew something wasn't right because it started chugging, going, I think I can. And then it said, I can't, big guy, I can't. So I had to back it off the hill. And, of course, Mom was raising an immortal Cain. And I told her, I said, I didn't have no choice.
See, I guess she probably see you come up there and hand mow it, or we'd eat it.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Yeah. Oh, heck no.
So how is my baby girl soccer going?
Oh, it's going good. She's had a couple games. And let me tell you, that girl got a leg on her. Be a 5-year-old, she's a ball hog. We got a little athlete. Oh Lord, she'll kick it in, and she'll come and tell me, she's like, Papa, I scored. I'm like, yeah, you did, girl. Keep doing it.
No, I'm so proud of her.
Oh, I am too. And also, I got to get started. I got to get my gardens. I got to get some stuff planted. This rain is causing me to have some complications.
I've been sowing some seeds, and they're popping out. So I got some little plants going. They'll be ready to plant soon because we're going to do our little co-gardening this year. That's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to do that Saturday or Sunday or something. I know I need to tell Scott thank you. And also, your Black Diamond Paranormal Society ball cap and T-shirt is waiting on you. Your payment for tilling my gardens for me. Well, everyone, let's get this party started. It's my honor to welcome our special guest, Sheriff Brian Hieatt. Hello, Sheriff, and thank you for coming on and joining us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, and I really appreciate you having me on here tonight.
Oh, bud, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's kind of a short notice, but I figured it'd be.
That's no problem. I'm a late night person, and I like I said, I really appreciate you asking me.
Well, you're welcome, and like I said, I appreciate you coming on. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to get into law enforcement.
Well, it's just something when I was in school, in middle school and into high school, I wanted to do something that I thought was exciting, something you're doing something different every day, and that was the goal I had, and was just fortunate enough after high school to get a job with the town of Tazewell Police Department and start into that career. And that was about 26 years ago.
Wow. Well, for all those young ones out there that have the same thoughts, that you had, what is the process of becoming a law enforcement officer that you could let them, maybe give them a little heads up on what to do?
Yeah, well, one of the main things is to be of good character. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know, a lot of applicants don't know, is one of the first things someone does when they put in an application, one of the first things that I do is I go and look at their Facebook page to see what kind of, that will tell you a lot about a person when you go check out their Facebook page. So, what I try to tell our younger people out there is, depending on what job you want to go into in this world, be careful of what you're putting out there on social media and the type of a person that you're showing on social media, because that's one of the first things I do. But we see a lot of people who want to go into the field of law enforcement, and they take college classes in the criminal justice program, and they start applying and doing some things to get themselves ready. And I've been fortunate to be able to hire and get a lot of good officers that are out there working for us in Tazewell County.
Yeah, you are y'all's bunch. Wow, great men and women. So what are the duties of the sheriff of Tazewell County? What do you do?
Well, I oversee the various departments in the sheriff's office, which includes we have about 97 employees in the sheriff's office, and a lot of people don't realize that we have that many people that work there. But 97, because that includes not only your patrol officers that's out there working the street. A lot of people, see that and think that's the majority of your department, but there's so many more that have to work to make the build up to make the department what it is. We have our patrol officers, but we also have our detective division, which includes your narcotics detectives plus your criminal detectives. We have our 911 center. That's under the sheriff's office. And we have several 911 dispatchers that work there. We have courthouse security. So we have the deputies whose job it is to secure that courthouse, make sure the judges are safe, take care of any problems that arise during court cases. We have people that work on our highways, our Sign a Highway program, where the probationers come out and pick up trash, and where we have inmates that come out and pick up trash on the sides of the road. We have our officers that work in the schools, our civil process servers, and then we have all of our office staff that keeps everything going. And so it's a large department to try to cover everything. So my job as sheriff is to oversee, make sure each department is functioning like it should, that we have programs and things in place that we need to for the citizens. It's a very busy job.
It
So
sounds
that's
like
a lot to keep up with. So, Brian, how does your family feel about you being an officer in the sheriff of Tazewell? Do they always support you, or has there been times they wish you did other types of work?
No, they're real supportive, and before I ran for sheriff, we sit down, me and my wife, Davina, sit down with our children and said, this is going to be a very busy job. This is going to be very time consuming to run in an election and then to be the sheriff. And, so it wasn't just a decision that I made and said, hey, guess what? This is what I'm doing. It was something that we made a decision as a family to do because I knew it would affect the whole family. But no, they're very supportive. My oldest son is actually now working as a police officer, as a deputy. And that's something that he's wanted to do because that's what he grew up around. When he was born, I was a deputy sheriff, and then a few years later, I was chief of police for the town of Tazewell. So he grew up around police officers, around me being a police officer and chief and then sheriff. So it's something that he's wanted to do. And so of course, I have that support there. And my wife has a very busy job as well. So a lot of times, me and her are running in different directions, and we have to support each other in our jobs with as busy as she is in hers and as busy as I am in mine. But it's really good to have that family that supports you and understands that there's a lot of times that you're not there, that you can't be there for certain things that they do. So, sometimes I feel bad for not being there for certain things, but they're very understanding.
Well, I tell you, it's probably sometimes a good thing when you don't have to, when you're not spending a lot of time together. You know what they say. Too much time could be a bad thing.
Well, that may be true. We don't get to get on each other's nerves as such. So I'm out of town a lot for different things, and
so Brian, what has been the process throughout the years of you working your way up to being elected sheriff? Because I'm sure there's been a process with that.
there has in different things. You know, when I first started, I was with, like I said, the town of Tazewell Police Department, and I did that for a few years, and then I had the opportunity to go to the sheriff's office and work in the DARE program, and that was something I thought would be a challenge and be exciting, and so I left the town and went to the sheriff's office and started working the DARE program. Working in the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And during that time, I was also working on my education, taking classes at Southwest Virginia Community College. And when I finished that, I entered into Bluefield College and started working on my bachelor's degree. And after 10 years at the sheriff's office, I was a sergeant, and the position of chief of police came open at the town of Tazewell. And so after 10 years of teaching there and being at the sheriff's office, and I had just got my bachelor's degree, and I applied to be chief of police, and thought again that would be another big challenge to do. And I was fortunate enough, very, very happy to have been chosen for the chief of police job. And so I did that for several years, and while I did that, I worked on and finished up my master's degree. And so I think education helped play a lot into me getting where I am now, that, you know, the hard work and education together. After being chief of police for 7 years, I decided to go back to the sheriff's office and work under the previous sheriff, and who had he then decided to retire and not run for sheriff again. And then that big question came up, well, who was going to run, and you know, if I wanted to take on that challenge. But I thought through the years, the work I'd done, and the being the administrator of the town police department, that you know, prepared me for what was coming. And that was a hard election. There was 12 people that started in that election, so it was not an easy process to go through the elections. But I was blessed to be able to be elected.
Is the political process of becoming a sheriff, is that let me see, how can I word this without coming off like a butthole?
Well, to run an elected office, and it's not just sheriff, it could be, you know, we have lots of elective offices, your commissioner of revenue, treasurer, Commonwealth attorney, sheriff. A lot of the elective offices now, Commonwealth attorney, the person does have to be an attorney, but the other elective offices, there's not any prerequisites. You don't have to be a police officer to run for sheriff. You don't have to know anything about finances to run for treasurer, but those are the things you depend on the voters to look at. That when you've got candidates out there, you know, we rely on the voters to say, okay, who has the experience, and who do we think is able to get out here and do this job. So to get in the process, you can be nominated by a party, or you can get the paperwork and go out and actually get signatures and be placed on a ballot. But being on the ballot is one thing, but, you know, actually having the confidence of the voters and being able to show them that you can do that job is something else.
Well, do you like campaigning for sheriff? I mean, do you like that process?
It's a hard process to go through when you're, especially if you're looking at that it's your career and your job, you know, on the line. It's a hard process to go through. It's hard for your family to go through because, as we see with a lot of politics, sometimes, you know, things are said and it's hard for your family to go through. But that's the way our system is set up in, and you know, it was a challenge, but afterwards it was well worth it, and I think it's a good experience for our children to go through and to see how things work. And you know, in both campaigns, we've had a lot of young people, and my children have been out there knocking on doors, campaigning for not only myself but for other candidates that they wanted to help out.
Well, that's great. Well, do you have any ups and downs during your law enforcement career that you'd like to mention, Brian?
Well, the you know, any time that I've no matter whether it was working for the sheriff's office or when I was chief of police, I always wanted people to see who your police officers are, that police officers do a lot more than just sit in a car and drive down the street. And so I always wanted to push for to advancements. You know, with the town of Tazewell, we wanted to be accredited, a state accredited agency. And we worked on that when I was chief of police, and we became the first department in Tazewell County and any surrounding county to be accredited. And at the time, we were the smallest municipal police department in the state of Virginia to achieve that accreditation. So I think in any job that I've done, I've wanted to push and stay busy and show, hey, you know, we can do something. And so we did that with the town. So that's some of the ups, being able to develop new programs and put new things out there, because in this job it's easy to come in and just kind of sit back and say, well, you know, the job is here and all I got to do is the normal day-to-day stuff and keep the status quo. But it's different if you want to come in and say, I want to stay busy, put a lot of effort in, and make this department better than when I left it. And I hope that's what I did with the Tazewell Police Department from the time I started to the time I left, leaving it as an accredited department, an increase in officers, and a lot of different programs and things we put in, like school resource officers while I was there. So that's some of the ups, being able to make advancements and leave something better than you found it.
Right.
And then that's the same thing we're doing with the sheriff's office, continuing to build on what a good department it was, on what a great department it's been, and being able to build on that and put in this new programs and continue things. We actually just had last week our assessment for our reaccreditation with the sheriff's office. After the town of Tazewell was accredited, just 2 years later, the sheriff's office became accredited. And so we now went through, this will be our second reaccreditation, and that's year to year maintaining our certain policies and files to a higher standard to show that we exceed what the state standards are for an accreditation status. So we just had that last week, and we're glad that's over with, and now we're getting ready to be presented next month with our reaccreditation.
Well, I know that I feel like y'all do a great job. And one thing I've always wondered, because this is why I feel like I could not be in law enforcement, I'm sure that you, being a sheriff, and even before you were sheriff, have seen some extreme, emotional, eventful days. How do you deal with these extremes without losing it?
Well, it's hard. I think part of it goes back to having the support of your family and having them there for you when those bad days come and when the hard attacks are, but also having a department that will rally around with you. And the way I look at our department is like a big family, and we're there to help each other out. And, you know, you look at some of those bad days. Recently, we had a murder, you know, that occurred in the Bluefield area of our county. And to have to go and sit down with that family and tell that family that you found their child and that their child was dead and that their child had been murdered, that's one of those days that can emotionally drain a person. But it's having your fellow officers there who are supporting you and you're supporting them that helps you get through those things. So for any officer, there are those days that are just physically draining, emotionally draining, but that's part of the job that you go into when you put on that badge.
Right. Well, have you ever had to pull or use your sidearm?
Fortunately, no. I've never had to. I've had to pull it out before for different instances, but fortunately, I've never had to shoot anybody. And which is not our goal. Our goal isn't to have to shoot somebody. It's being prepared if it were to happen. But I've been blessed that in these 26 years that I've never had. It's never come to a point for me to have to shoot somebody.
Well, that's good. That's really
good. Yeah, because and we do have officers. With our department, there's officers around that have had to do that. and that's a lot. That's a toll to take, because there's no officer out there who's just wanting to shoot somebody, who hopes the day comes that they shoot somebody. So when it does happen, that's an emotional drain on them. And we have Police Week coming up in May, and during Police Week, we try to gear some things, not only towards remembering the officers who've lost their lives, but also we try to gear some things towards officers who've had to be put in that spot of having to take someone else's life, and trying to do things for them and their families to help them through that.
Yeah, I'd say that would be very, very hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I understand that you've worked with two governors' task forces, one dealing with school violence and the other one with substance abuse. Can you explain what your duties were with these task forces, and how did they affect our community?
Yeah, the one with school violence came after the mass killing at Sandy Hook, and you saw several states that wanted to try to look at their laws and try to better secure their schools, and so they looked at people in different jobs, different careers, and put together a task force, and I was looking at to be on there, and what they looked at is different laws and different things to try to do to make your schools safer. And then kind of the same with the one on substance abuse. And of course, we know substance abuse is a problem that's going on throughout our nation. And there's different things going on. Just everybody's looking for that answer. What can we do about it? And it's not just a Tazewell County problem. I know I said that when I was emailing you and all, because a lot of people look at that. Well, this county is so bad with drugs, and it's not just a Tazewell County problem. This is something that's hit our nation from coast to coast. You can't go to any county, any state, anywhere, and have someone say, well, in our county we don't have any drug problems. You're not going to see that. It's hit our country hard, and everybody in every state and every county is looking for that solution. What do we do about it? And we look at it and we've got three ways that we're trying to work with it in Tazewell County. And the first is prevention, where we do work hard in our DARE programs, and we're getting ready to expand and do some things, not only with elementary school children, but with middle school and high school. And because I think that's the first step is prevention, and to try to get people at a younger age to realize the dangers and what's going to happen to you. But then we also work very hard with enforcement. And you see that in the papers when we have indictments. You see the arrests that come out. Our jails are full of people who, sometimes aren't bad people, but they've made a lot of bad choices dealing with drugs. And so we work very hard with enforcement. We're very vigorous with our arrests and our undercover investigations and the things we do there. But then we also try to help with rehabilitation, rehab. And we are very heavily involved in things like our drug court program. And drug court is where we have people who've been charged with certain crimes. There's a criteria that they can't be in drug court if there's certain crimes, but if they've been charged with certain crimes, they can get into drug court if drugs are the reason that they're committing these crimes. And they can go through a very extensive program and show that they can go through this program and rebuild their lives back up. And we've seen a lot of success with people who've gone through drug court, who've been able to go through the programs, the drug testing, and come out and work good jobs and be able to be there with their family. So we look at it in three ways. We're doing the prevention, but we're arresting when we have to and prosecuting when we have to, but then we're also trying to help people rebuild their lives who want to make that choice. And I think that's a big key is making that choice. A lot of people say, well, why can't you make this person go to a rehab center? Why can't you, force them to do this? And it's just like all of us. If there's something you that you don't want to change about yourself, nobody else can force you to change it. And until you make that choice. I know that I know that eating a lot of chocolate is not good for me, and I like eating chocolate, but, Rodney telling me to stop eating chocolate, isn't going to help me, I guess, unless I finally say to myself, I need to change my diet or what I'm doing. So with a lot of people, it's, when they're ready to make that decision, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to do this, then we've got things in place to help them follow through with that decision.
Well, you can give me all the chocolate. I'll take your chocolate. I'll help you. I got you back.
And I'm not trying to compare it. That would be as easy because of the difficulty of coming off drugs. But if they're ready to make that decision, Celebrate Recovery is a great program, and we have several places that work with Celebrate Recovery. But you can't be forced to go there. You can't be forced to sit there and work on it. If the people who are there have made that decision, I'm going to change my life. And so once they've made that decision, then that's when the process can work. But, you can't force somebody to kick a drug habit.
Well, I'm sure that this saves taxpayers a lot of money than just putting someone in jail and then they do their time to get back out and do it again.
Right. And it can, but now, don't get me wrong, because a lot of times jail is the best first place for someone to go who has a bad drug habit, because you've isolated them away from the drugs. And I think for families, it's a way for them to know their child is not going to end up in a ditch, is not going to end up dead. If their child or family member has that bad of a drug problem that, they're up worrying at night, don't know if they're going to be alive, if they're going to overdose, at least if they're in jail, even if they're in there for a short period of time, if it's your family member, they're safe, they've got someone watching them, they've got medical needs if something happens to them. So it can be some security for the family to know, but it also starts getting that person off the drugs. So for someone who's got a real bad drug habit, that first stay in jail for a few months is not a bad thing. But then, Rodney, you're right. Once a person, if they can get into a program like drug court, Celebrate Recovery, and start doing these things, yes, that's going to save us money by them not being locked back up and locked back up and locked back up. Because we do see that with a lot of people, the same people going back to jail and back to jail.
Yeah. Well, I know from personal. I had a family member who went through that, and you're absolutely right. Our family finally had peace of mind once my family member was in jail that we weren't going to get a call that he was dead somewhere. So I definitely agree with that, and it did. And he has come out a better person because of some of the programs there in Tazewell County, and that I commend you all for. And I want to thank you.
Well, that is great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's great. And, I don't think there's anybody you can talk to that drugs haven't affected their family in some way. I've had family members who have been charged and been locked up. So I don't think there's anybody you could talk to who could say, well, I don't know anybody with a drug problem. I don't know anybody that it hasn't affected, because it affects so many in our community.
Well, yeah, I know the drug problem's bad in Tazewell, and I know it's bad in surrounding counties, and it's also it's just a national problem. And so does the sheriff's office work with other counties and state and federal agencies to try to stop and educate communities on the drug problems? Or
we do, and I hate to make Tazewell County sound bad, and that's not what I'm doing, because Tazewell is a great place, and it's where I grew up and have lived all my life, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. By saying we have a drug problem, but I think, we look at it how we address it. We don't want to ignore it or pretend that it's not there, but it's the things you try to do. So, yeah, we do work with other counties, and just like our drug court program, there's federal money we get for that. There's grants that we get. We actually have an officer who is partially paid for in our grant money who just works with our drug court participants. That's his assignment. He's there to do random drug checks, sometimes in the middle of the night, but he's also there as a resource to help them and be there for them as they try to rebuild their lives up. So we get grant money for different things we do. We do work with, like I said, our other counties. That the officer, that's the drug court officer, also works in Buchanan County and had been working in Russell County with drug court participants as well. So because we see, again, that it's a problem that's throughout Virginia.
Well, on that, how can everyone in their communities help you all combat this epidemic? What can we do on our end to help in any way?
Well, I think, one thing is for people to be supportive of the programs that's out there, like Celebrate Recovery and Drug Court, to be supportive of those programs. But now on the enforcement side, what we depend on a lot of times is people giving us information about what's going on in your neighborhood, because nobody knows better what's going on in your neighborhood than you. I could go up and down where you live, 10 times a day, but I'm not going to see the things that you see because of you living there. And we have ways that people can give us, anonymous information. We have a sheriff's office app that you can put on your smartphone. And you can download the Taos County Sheriff's Office app onto your smartphone, and there's a way on there where you can submit anonymous tips. And when those tips come in, it doesn't have your phone number attached to it. It doesn't have any of your name attached to it, and it comes into us. And we do have some people that will give us tips and say, you need to be watching this person here on this street. Here's some things that's going on, and those are the things that help us in our investigations. You can also call in, and we do keep that information anonymous. Our emails are out there on our Sheriff's Office app and our Facebook page and everything, and we do keep that information there. A lot of people will send us private messages on Facebook a lot, and we appreciate that. And again, we keep that information anonymous, but a lot of people send us private messages on Facebook and tips on crimes that are happening, but on where drug activity may be, so we know where to concentrate a lot of our efforts. We have a narcotics canine. We have hard-working patrol officers who will go out there and do a lot of drug interdiction, but any information helps us.
Well, what about parole officers? Do they stay on top of all the parolees?
Well, it's our probation officers. They have a large caseload. We work with them quite a bit, and I think they do a good job of checking in on their probationers. They have, like I said, a lot of caseloads for each one of them, so they have a lot of things to juggle between court, doing pre-sentence reports, and then actually working with the people that's on probation. But I think they do. I think they stay on top of their people pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If I could, I was going to mention something because I touched just a minute about social media. Our Facebook page is where we put a lot of good information for people to watch out for. We just put a couple of pictures on there today of some people that were involved in a crime that were needing information and needing somebody to help identify who it may be. So I encourage people to go to our Facebook page and check out some of the things we put on there. Social media sometimes can be a bad thing, but we've got a lot of tremendous tips and information and a lot of good things that have come from our Facebook page and Twitter and our Sheriff's Office app. So social media has been very handy for us.
Now, with your Facebook page, is it an officer that checks the messages, or is it some other employee within the Sheriff's Office?
There's three of us who actually have access. Myself, Major Hieatt, and my 911 director who gets on there, and we place the pictures and information. And myself and Major Hieatt are the ones that look at the messages that people send in. So that's when I say it's anonymous, that's because we've got it limited to a very just us that get on there and look and respond. So people probably don't know, but if you send in a private question or something on there and there's a response from our Facebook page, it's myself or it's Major Harold Hieatt that's responding back.
Okay.
Sometimes people don't know they're actually talking to the sheriff, but a lot of times it is.
Well, I'm going to change the speed of this, so because I know there's been a lot of controversy a little bit about this, and a lot of talk, a lot of attention in the God We Trust has been placed on the Tazewell County Sheriff's vehicles. What prompted your decision to okay the placement in God We Trust on these vehicles that are paid for by the taxpayers of Tazewell County and the nation, because some of the funding comes from, I'm sure, the state and federal government. Do you feel that this may infringe on other religious rights and beliefs other than the Christians?
Well, I don't think so. Not in my way of thinking. It doesn't. And what brought it about? And I've tried to tell people, I know it wasn't a decision that I just made, or I didn't come up one day and say, hey, this is what I want on the back of our cars. I had several officers who had seen this on other police cars in different areas. They'd seen it on Facebook and other areas, and who said, hey, we should do this. What can we do to do this? And my response to them would be, well, it's nothing that I feel we can take out of our sheriff's office budgets, the taxpayers' money, but if you find the funding for it, then, I'm good with it. That'd be great. And so on down the road a little bit, they found the donations to put on the back of the cars, and they came and said, well, we've got the money, we want to put it on there, and I said, I'm behind you. So it's something that the department as a whole, the officers wanted. It wasn't something that I just said, and I know that's what some people have said, well, you made the choice to do that. Well, that's what the officers wanted, and I was behind them 100% in doing it. And we've seen a lot of support for it. And it's not, the way I see it, it's not infringing on someone else's religion, because it's not saying you have to believe in God and you have to believe in God. It's saying this is what we believe in. And this is the department we are. So I don't feel it as infringed on theirs. It's just our freedom of saying this is what we say. And of course it's our nation's motto. And I just saw a Facebook page earlier today. I put it on my Facebook page where Amelia County has now put it on their cars, and we're seeing that one county after another county, and it's something that's been going on for a few years now across our nation. So we're seeing more and more of it in Virginia and our surrounding counties, especially here in Southwest Virginia. But that's how it came about. And I know I had some letters from an organization who was upset about it, and they were also upset about our Bible study group that we have. And again, that was something that some officers in my department came, and I've got 2 chaplains that are in my department who are specifically trained and who help out officers and the public when there's times of need. But they came and said, we'd like to start having a Bible study group once a week, after we get off work. Is that okay? And I said, that's great. And I've attended the Bible study meetings, but I know when that came out, this organization that had sent the letters looked at it. I guess in their minds they thought I was having a mandatory meeting in a mandatory Bible study group where I got everybody in there, and that I was doing the Bible study. And that's not what it was at all. It was just something that was an open door for anybody that wanted to come in, and actually different members of the department each week would get up and do a Bible study. And again, that brings your department, that family that I talked about at the beginning, that we're a family and support and help each other out. And that's what I like to look at the department as a family. That's just another activity that helps to bring that family closer together.
Well, I know I've read that the county might be facing like a legal battle over this. Do you think that it's worth the fight and the cost to have the God We Trust on the cars? Or the vehicle?
I don't think we can. Well, I don't think we can ask if it's worth the fight because right now there's no fight. We can always say, the what ifs. From right now, it's already been to court in the past. It's been upheld in the court, so there is no fight or no legal battle. There is, like I said, that organization who says we don't like what you're doing, and then that's it. Right now that's as much as it is. And the sheriff's office I've talked to in Illinois and different places, it's the same thing. There's been no court action. There's been no legal action other than them writing letters and saying, hey, we don't like what you're doing. We want you to stop. So, again, and I hate to see an organization or someone, up in a different state that wants to look at us in Tazewell County, Virginia, and say, we want you to do things our way, and we want you to stop doing what you think is right because we say so. And it is our nation's motto.
Mm-hmm.
It's on every dollar bill that we go out and spend and use. It's on there, and the stamps that organization buys to send me the letters is they bought those stamps with money that said "In God We Trust."
That's true.
So, and I'll tell you, Rodney, the other thing, I certainly didn't know that it was going to cause a controversy. This is something that the department wanted. I was behind 100%, and I thought it was great. Had I known, I probably still would have done it because I think it's the right thing to do. But I didn't know it was going to cause a controversy.
Well,
when I read about it, I kind of figured it would because I know there's some people in the area that are not religious people that can see that could be offensive to them, or you're putting a higher power over something that they don't see or accept, and that the police department, and the county and the town, because I noticed, it's not only the police department, it's the county, and also I think the fire department, and also other counties and towns are doing it. I could see where people that are not religious or that believe in another way or a certain way, I could see them being, maybe feel like they might be picked on or chastised or separated from the ones who accept this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And when it came out and it was on our Facebook page, we started getting a lot of messages, a lot of them private messages. Some of them were just, hey, I don't agree with what you've done, but now some of them were just very, very nasty, bad messages. And when we started looking at the ones that were real bad, not just an opinion, but just nasty, bad messages, they were from places like New York, Ohio, and things like that. And what we've seen is in our area, the majority, the very large majority, has agreed with it and supported it.
Well, since a lot of the area seems to support it, so you're not worried or feel that the "In God We Trust" will affect the next sheriff selection, because you know how people are.
Right, and who knows? That's another one of those what ifs. Will it come up at the next sheriff's election? Will somebody be able to try to use it in a political way to say that I've made a bad decision and need to be out of office? Who knows? But I still stand by the decision I made. But that's, again, like I said, another one of those what ifs. And any decision you make, especially in this position, you're making the decisions every day, week after week, and any one of them, could have that what if on there.
Exactly.
We're getting ready now to start using tasers, and tasers have been a big controversy. We have other departments in Tazewell County and surrounding areas who've been using tasers for a long time, so we were kind of behind on getting to that point. And now that we've got to that point, you see a lot of controversies that have come up around tasers. So, again, that's another what if. Are we going to be sued? by using them? Is somebody going to come back later and say something about using tasers when there's so much controversy going on in other areas of the United States? But like I said, every decision's it could go one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Well, I know it seems like past few months you've been real busy, with the drug problems and with the issue with the God we trust, and what's the focus on bullying in schools, cyberbullying, and the sexual predators in our area? What are y'all working on that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, and that's great. That's a good question, because that's something that has really grown in the last few years because of that growth of social media. And that's what I'm saying. It's not always a good thing, but we have seen such an increase in crimes happening over the internet, from bullying, child pornography, and different things. So we're trying to stay on the top and advance with that. And I have two very good officers who work on internet crimes, and they stay extremely busy. We're busy enough doing things outside, like breaking and enterings and working on drug crimes, but the work that they do there is tedious and stays very busy. But one thing we try to do with that is, again, education, and we go to different schools, different community groups. We're getting ready to go to a couple of churches that have asked us to come in for some community meetings, and we try to explain, what the illegal things are that people will do on the computer, and the things that will get you in trouble if you do on the computer. Sending threatening text messages, things like that. People don't understand, once you've sent stuff on the computer and on your phone, a lot of it is there and will be there forever and can be downloaded and saved and used in a prosecution. If you're a teenager and you're sending a nude picture of yourself to somebody else, that's child pornography, and you're sending out child pornography. And we try to go out and talk to young people about that, so they can kind of understand, these are serious crimes. You may not think about it at the time, and you're taking that picture and doing something like that, but it is a crime.
All right.
So that's something we're trying to stay on top of, especially with the officers that I have there, who the forensics they do with the internet and the phones. We're staying right on the forefront of that.
Yeah. Well, I know that my kids went to elementary school with your kids before we moved back to Mercer County. And, So I was just wondering, with you being in law enforcement and being the sheriff, did your kids ever get bullied due to your job? Because kids are cruel, you know that.
Right,
did they have any problem with that?
No. Now my oldest son will tell me now that because he's 21, he'll tell me now. He'll say, "Well," he said, "I got left out of a lot of stuff when I was in school." He said, "Because nobody would invite me places because my dad was the chief of police at the time." He said, so he said I didn't get to go to a lot of places where the kids would hang out or would do something. They said, "No, we can't have him there. He'll tell his dad what's going on." So, and I said, "Well, you're probably better off that you didn't go." So, but I don't know of any instances where they were actually bullied or anything bad said to them about their dad being a police officer. So yeah, that's good. But even with them, I and still worried, because you don't know what bad decisions they may make, and on things. We try to tell other parents, and I try to do myself, check their phones. And the rule that I had was that, if I'm paying for the cell phone, then I have to have the password, and you can't say it's my phone, because it's not your phone. I'm paying for that phone. And the same thing with bedrooms. And we try to tell parents that's your house they're living in, and that's your bedroom you're letting them stay in. You can search that room at any time, and you let them know, hey, this is my bedroom. You're staying in here. It's your, the room you stay in, but it's my house, and I can search this room at any time. But sometimes a child will try to tell a parent, well, you're invading my privacy. This is my room. Don't look in my closet. This is my cell phone. You're not going to look at what I've got on here. And we try to encourage parents to be assertive and let them know, I'll take the cell phone away from you. I threatened to take a hammer to one of my son's cell phones one time because I said I wanted the password, and he said, why? I said, no, this wasn't a debate. Give me the password. He said, what for? I said, I'm about to take a hammer and smash it. That's why, unless you give me the password. So I said, it's my phone. I pay for it. And we try to tell parents that because we want parents to stay on top of what's going on your child's phone, who they're texting. And it doesn't hurt to randomly go through your child's phone and just make sure that they're not getting into something that's going to hurt them or get them in trouble. And the same thing with searching the room. It's better to make your child mad for a night because you went in their room and did a random search than to find out later, well, I never knew that was in their room. I never knew they were doing this.
Oh, I know. I told my kids when I was growing up, I am a dictator in this house. You go by my rules. This is the way it is. It's democracy. Once you get 18 years old and you're old enough to vote, you can have your democracy. But until then, you're in the country of Rodney Shortridge. It's a sovereign nation, and you do as I say.
Amen. There you go. And you see, you raised good kids. So see, it worked.
Yes,
and it's not even when 18, because I had one that was living at home after he turned 18, but it was still my home, and the car he was driving was still my car. So, and that was the same thing with the car too. I'll search the car, search the trunk because that is my car. And now he's moved down. He's got his own car and his own name, so I can't enforce those rules. But for two of the others, I can. And when he was there, that's what we did. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the parent doing that.
Wow,
that's good.
Well, our time is up. We got a couple of minutes, so real quick, Brian, what's the plans for the Sheriff's Department 2016? Any projects that y'all working on, like any DARE programs for Tazewell County or Richlands, Graham?
Yeah, we're getting ready to expand into that middle school and high school, so we're real excited about that. To start working with the kids that's a little older. We're also doing our concealed weapon classes, and we've got a lot of more of them that's scheduled to come up, and those are the classes that we do for free. That we've had a lot of members of the public come out and take. So we're still planning on those. We have several things on the horizon coming up to just keep working with our citizens and making our county a great county.
Well, Brian, I appreciate you coming on. You've been a great guest, and it's an honor to speak to you. And keep doing a good job, man. We do appreciate everything you all do.
Yes, we love you so much, Juan.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I really appreciate you letting me be on here tonight and for all your support for the deputies and the officers that are working out there.
Okay. Well, you have a good night, and thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
A great guy. I love Brian. I want to thank him so much for coming on the show, and we'll welcome you back anytime. Well, that's it for us tonight. I want to thank Sheriff Brian Hieatt for coming on the show, and to thank everyone that took the time to listen and take part in our show. I'd like to give a big shout-out to the Vibe Radio Network, also to all the first responders and our men and women in the armed services. Thank you all for your service. Our guest for next Thursday night, May 5th, will be Rich Huffman of MoFon. So turn in next week to another exciting show, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, be safe and have a good night.
Night, y'all.